curious what peptides are best for weight loss. I'm a peptide expert who has prescribed thousands of peptides to thousands of people for weight loss specifically. So I'm going to show you what peptides you can use in a safe way, which ones to stack for weight loss, and by the end of this video, you'll have complete confidence in knowing how to transform your body in the shortest amount of time possible without risking future health. So let's jump in. So weight loss is tricky because, first of all, think about why do you want to lose weight in the first place? When people come to see me, they'll say, Regan, I want to lose 20 pounds. And I'll say, what would be different in your life if you lost the 20 pounds? And inevitably, the answer that most of you give me is I'll have better energy, I'll fit into my clothes better, and I'll be healthier. And so if we just reverse the script and we say, well, why is the weight there in the first place? And what's the cause? Because if you're treating symptoms, then your weight's gonna come off and then it will come on again, come off, come on again. And so one of my friends, she just gave up Diet Coke. And the crazy thing about that is she went 30 days, no Diet Coke, and she lost 8 pounds. She also reported to me, she's like, I've got better mental clarity, the brain fog's gone, my energy's better, I feel better, and her whole body composition changed by removing that one interference. And so some of you may be saying, well, I don't drink Diet Coke, there's other things going on. And so let's dive into the cause first, but anytime you're looking to lose weight, think of the first thing that you could get rid of that may be contributing to weight gain. And if you can look at the cause, there's multiple causes. Some people have thyroid issues. And if you have thyroid issues, you'll notice that you'll accumulate body fat systemically. So you'll notice it on your chin, you'll notice it on your arms, your legs, you'll notice it on your belly. If you have an adrenal body type, then you'll notice you get kind of that lower belly fat. It's really stubborn. That's the place where it's like right below your belly button, and it can develop an apron over time. And that's usually from a cortisol dysregulation, because if you think of stress, you're like, does stress cause like issues with weight? Well, just like sugar does, so does stress. Because sugar, if you think about what it is, sugar is an energy source that you want to utilize very quickly. Otherwise, our bodies want to store that sugar as energy. And when you're under high levels of stress and you're not exercising to get rid of these stress hormones, then what happens is cortisol levels start to get too high. And then your body will go into this state of what's called gluconeogenesis, where your liver pushes sugar into your blood. So you can actually be in a caloric deficit and still gain weight in certain cases if your adrenal hormones are off. And so because your body will downregulate its metabolic needs, and it does that through the thyroid is very responsive to the adrenals, and then because your body has 1,000 times more receptors on the belly to store and conserve energy, if you think about it from an evolutionary perspective, we used to go long periods of time with no food. We'd be in this fasted state. And so the only way our bodies could compensate was to store fat. So we would feast and then famine, feast and then famine. I don't know about you, but it makes for a really grumpy day if you're on the famine day. Now in modern society, we have more stability in our energy and nutrient needs. But if you have stress, you may have the adrenal body type. So look at your body real quick and say, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds. What part of my body is the weight stored on? Dudes, we get it in our belly, right? It's so frustrating. And most of the time, what we don't realize is it's that adrenal system that's being compromised. The other reason you gain weight is insulin resistance and liver issues. So the three main body types, the thyroid, the adrenals, the liver, you need to figure out which ones of these that you want to focus on first. And then we can layer in the peptides. So semaglutide or Ozempic, you guys have heard of these GLP-1s, phenomenal weight loss drugs. I mean, these peptides are naturally made in your brain. Glucagon-like peptide, what it does is it helps you sense when you're full. And one of the things that I remember most about what Dr. Miyakawa, my very first mentor, she said, the greatest sin you can ever commit to your body is overeating. And so I realized like, oh, well, maybe I'll go to heaven after all, if that's the biggest sin. All right, joking. But if you ever imagine how you felt when you've overate, it's really hard because you just have to wait. there's not much you can do about it. And so stop when you're 80% full. But what happens to most of us is the mechanism of sensing fullness gets broken. And now we have these GLP-1 peptides, and it actually reminds our body to get in touch. It activates the vagus nerve that connects your brain right from the bottom of your occiput into the gut. And the GLP-1s inform your brain as to when you're full. And so you don't overeat as much. So these GLP-1s, you want to look at what body type you are. So if you've got the insulin resistance liver belly, and that's the upper belly where it's just distended, and you see dudes that are like all jacked, and then they have this belly, and when we run their labs, sure enough, we find that their insulin levels are too high, their fasting insulin, their C-peptide is elevated. And even if their hemoglobin A1C and blood glucose or fasting glucose looks in the optimal range, we'll find these insulin-resistant issues. There's a great book by Benjamin Bickman. He's a Utah local here, and it's called Why We Get Sick. And he dives deep into all the mechanisms of insulin resistance and how it contributes to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, and it creates an energy deficit and puts us in this, it's called an adipose gain, so we're actually accumulating fat. So when you're looking at the body types, these 3 body types, if you're a thyroid body type, here's the peptides that you want to add with the GLP-1s. Now, I'm a big fan of tirzepatide and retatrutide. Semaglutide alone is just a GLP-1, and it's got too many side effects for most people. If you dose it really low, you'll tolerate it very well. But if you go to tirzepatide, which is a GLP-1 and a GIP, you'll notice that you just have a little better energy on it without the side effects. And if you've got the thyroid body type, the very first thing you want to think of is, what are the core nutrients that I need to activate my thyroid hormone? So think selenium. Do you have adequate levels of selenium? Do you have great levels of magnesium? My friend Barton Scott, he's got a company called Upgraded Formulas, and he has an 8-hour magnesium sleep blend, and it's a nanoized magnesium, so it actually gets into the cells and it will change your life. I've never had so many of my clients tell me, I love this magnesium because I can sleep. But the magnesium, it also helps activate tryptophan, which is really important for your thyroid. And if you're doing collagen peptides is missing that one amino acid, tryptophan, so you're not getting this full protein structure. So adding in some tryptophan can be really helpful. If you think on the thyroid, you want to think selenium, tryptophan, and then you also want to think the omega-3 fatty acids, because that's what will help that T4 to T3 conversion. And we'll talk more about this in another video that I've made on thyroid specifically. But the peptides that you want to add in with the thyroid is going to be thymosin alpha-1, and you also want to look at thymosin beta-4. And so these are activated by your thymus gland. These peptides are phenomenal for the immune system, but they also put the body at ease so that your metabolism can start to get triggered. On the adrenal complex, think circadian rhythms. And so 2 of the great peptides for the adrenals that you can add into the GLP-1s are epitalin, and epitalin is 15 amino acid chains. It was discovered by Vladimir Kovinson back in the 80s, working with the military in Russia, and he found that it was a telomerase enzyme, so it lengthened the telomeres. But in the clinical studies with apes, he found that these elderly monkeys who had insomnia, just by giving them a round of epitalin, they actually regulated their sleep patterns. And so the adrenals, it's really important that you get your sleep on. You also want to add in more vitamin C, especially if you're under high levels of stress. And then on the liver, for those of you who get the belly that you just want gone, that's where tesamorelin, ipamorelin is really powerful, and it will just melt the belly fat. And by the way, you'll want to use like BPC 157 for the digestive issues, or KPV if that's a problem. But when you think of getting rid of the weight in the safest way possible for good, then on the liver side, you want to be prolonging your restriction of food. So you want to go 12 to 14 hours and just let your body use some of that excess energy as a fuel source. But then you also want to make sure you start your day with protein, especially if you have thyroid, adrenal. Getting protein first thing in the morning, it will send sensors into your brain that you're satiated, that you're full, that you feel good, and you'll get some energy. You'll break down these proteins, and then you'll start building muscle mass, which is the strategy for long-term weight loss, but also for muscle gain. So think these three body types. If you're the thyroid type, you have kind of the chin, the arms, fat accumulation systemically. You want to think thymosin beta-4, thymosin alpha-1 with some type of growth hormone peptide, and adding in like tirzepatide or retatrutide. On the adrenal type, for those of you with the lower belly fat, think stress and gluconeogenesis, and that's where you really want to bring in the like epitalin, or the other peptide is called panylion, and that regulates, it works on the pineal gland and regulates your circadian rhythms. And then for the liver type, that's where you want to add in tesamorelin, ipamorelin. And this peptide is phenomenal because it's a growth hormone peptide. It gives you the six-pack. It also is really powerful for those of you who want to improve cognition. And if you're interested in cognition, I do have a phenomenal video that I created all on cognitive function, executive function. So make sure you go check out that video. We'll provide a link in the notes below. For those of you who want to get off the weight and keep it off for good, go to agelessfuture.com and download my free ebook called The Peptide Blueprint. I'm Regan Archibald, happy to serve you. I'll see you on the next video.